Today we're going to be diving into the world of disturbing media that I was able to find around the internet. And what's fascinating to me about this kind of media is that it can come in many different forms. Sometimes you'll see a piece of media that on the surface doesn't seem to have any darker elements to it, but when you dig a little deeper and look at what's beneath the surface, things get a bit darker.
Music with meaning. Come on and learn that your soul can be free.
Hello and welcome once again to...
The man you're seeing on screen right now goes by the name Simon Peter, and he hosted this very television and radio program, Music with Meaning. The show was produced in Greece and then later Sri Lanka in the 1980s, and it was produced by the Family of Love, or the Children of God, nowadays referred to as the Family International. For those unaware, the Children of God is a Christian cult started in 1968 by David Berg, which is actually still around today and is now led by Karen Zerbe. It's a controversial group known for the many overly socialist doctrines, which I'll get into a bit later on. Backtracking a bit to Simon Peter, also known as Happy, whose real name is Christopher Caruthers, or Jones, was born December 3rd, 1951, and he studied drama at a college called Rose Bruford, but this wouldn't last long as he would drop out to join the cult and would essentially make a career for himself, hosting not only the Music with Meaning show from 1976 until 1984, but he also appeared on numerous audio products from the cult, and his voice is apparently recognized by many of its members. Simon also has a wife named Yoshiko Caruthers and 3 daughters, Celeste, Christina, and Juliana, who actually wrote a book called Not Without My Sister, which I'll also touch on a bit later. Let's now start to make connections and using our brain here for a second. Since Simon Peter is a longtime member of the cult and was heavily involved in making some of the contents produced by the cult, that means that he must have participated and accepted to some extent some of the strange and weird doctrines that I'm about to get into just in a little bit. In my VHS tape tied to a cult video, I talked about some of the cult's doctrines and I talked about the cult in general. And there's one doctrine that I want to cover right now. It's called loving Jesus. And although I won't go too much in depth into it right now, there's one part about it that I wanted to highlight, which will bring me to my next point. Quote, this doctrine was introduced in 1995 and is taught to all members as young as 12, but more fully from the age of 14. Now, what this doctrine, loving Jesus, entails is that during intercourse or members are instructed to imagine themselves doing it with Jesus. And I sort of clowned on this and other doctrines in my VHS tape tied to a cult video. And I also talked about why I think some of these practices are dangerous, especially to children, so if you want to go check that out after. But I think we can all agree that teaching someone, especially younger children, something like this is strange to say the least. Now, going back to Simon Peter's 3 daughters and the book they wrote called Not Without My Sister, in full disclosure, I haven't read anything from the book, but if they were from the cult and they grew up in the cult, they were more than likely to have been taught this doctrine and others. In fact, just on the back of the book, it describes how they were, quote, treated by their guardians as beings, and they were forced into openly abusive relationships. They were denied access to formal schooling, forced to wander the streets begging for money, and mercilessly beaten for crimes as unpredictable as reading an encyclopedia. The last thing I wanted to cover regarding this cult is a piece of media which I don't even feel comfortable showing or even looking at myself due to what it contains. Quote, Glorify God in the Dance was the title of both a Mo letter and a video produced by Music with Meaning, as well as a term used in the Children of God to describe nude dances performed on video camera by women, teens, and even young children for the pleasure of David Berg. The term is taken from Psalms 149:3, where it reads, Let them praise his name in the dance, let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and harp. First of all, I want to show you yet another example of this cult taking something from the Bible and twisting it to fit their philosophy, if you will. Apparently, the name Glorify God in the Dance is based on that verse previously mentioned in the book of Psalms, which is a book in the Bible composed of various prayers and praises to God. Now, because of God's mercy and things of that nature, it's only natural for his followers to want to show some sort of gratitude in some sort of way, and I think that this sort of reaction is only normal. For example, if Mr. Beast were to come out of nowhere and give me $10,000, I'd definitely be extremely thankful, and I'd want want to show my gratitude in some sort of way, but that doesn't include something because apparently the makers of Glorify God in the Dance think this is a valid way to glorify God, I guess. On top of that, I'm pretty sure most Christians would agree that immorality goes against their faith, and I don't know about you, but I think having teens and young children dancing just to please a grown man's sick pleasures, that man being David Berg, is not only immoral, but it's just straight up degeneracy. One last thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to the next section of this video. If you recall, Simon Peter's real name is Christopher Jones, or Caruthers, and he was heavily involved with the Music with Meaning program. Well, quote, in September 1981, cult members at Music with Meaning in Greece filmed 20 adults and children performing dances for the sexual gratification of David Berg and others. The video was titled Glorify God in the Dance and primarily based on the instructions by David Berg in the Mo letter of the same name published a few months earlier. And to finalize, if you go into the transcript of the credits in the video, you can see that not only David Berg's 9-year-old granddaughter was involved in the production of this video, but you can also see one of Simon Peter's daughters, specifically Celeste. She's credited here as well, and she was 6 years old at the time of recording the Glorify God in the Dance video. I definitely want to dive more into this cult later down the road and have another whole video dedicated to it, but this is where I'm gonna end off this section and I'm gonna move on. But before I move on, I just want to tell you, I hope I didn't come across as preachy or nothing like that, because that's not my intention. But anyways, let's move on. Let's do a quick hypothetical. Imagine you're isolated. You find yourself doing everything in your power to find a friend or perhaps a mate, but your attempts are in vain because you're the very last human on Earth. The Kwai O'o. It was a bird exclusively found on the Hawaiian island of Kauai and was part of a family of Hawaiian birds called the O'o, or the moho, which are sadly now all extinct. The cause of extinction is due to a range of factors such as the introduction of predators, diseases, and the destruction of their habitat. I find this to be especially disturbing because it highlights just how the introduction of certain things in an ecosystem can be detrimental to some of its inhabitants. And I also think this can apply to humans, from diseases like the Black Plague, lead poisoning, and to modern day issues such as the consumption of microplastics. This is the only known footage of the Kwai O'o, filmed by John Sincott, and in 2000 this species was declared extinct. The song the bird sings is cute and nice to listen to, but when I found out that in reality it's supposed to be a duet, but the pauses in between supposed to be sung by a female, my heart completely shattered because he was waiting for a mate that, sadly, he would never be able to see in his lifetime. I find disturbing pieces of media to be fascinating because I think of this kind of media as a puzzle piece in a wider story just waiting to be solved. I also think this type of content intrigues us because it not only fuels our morbid curiosity, but it's also something tangible and something to latch onto, if you will. You can tell me a story and I'll of course be interested, given that you're not telling me about how the chicken crossed the road to get into the bowl of my chicken noodle soup, because that's my chicken noodle soup with the soda on the side. Bad jokes aside, to me, seeing visual media just satisfies that itch to want to be shown and not told, although if you show and tell, you've probably already got me hooked. First and foremost, before I get into my little tangents, thanking you guys and whatever, I want to thank my Patrons because, you know, you guys are going to be the backbone of this channel. You guys already are the backbone of this channel. It's my dream to do this full time one day. And without you guys, like, there would be no foundation, because I believe that one day the Patreon is gonna be big enough where I can do this full time. I'm not asking for $1 million. I'm not asking for $10,000. I'm not asking only, like, my goal is only to make enough just to do this full time, just be able to quit my job and do this full time. Your names are right here up on the screen and everything. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate you guys. I want to thank you guys who watch these videos on YouTube and who just continuously support me, support every single upload. Just last year, you know, I was in a rut and I was stuck at like 2,000 subscribers. And the year prior, it was a pretty good year. I saw a lot of growth, a lot of views and all that stuff. But then after a while, it started dipping down. And I became burnt out from making the same type of content. And you guys allowed for me to make this kind of content that I love making. Slower pace, deep dive, and more research heavy and more script heavy content. I love writing these videos, and I love making these videos for you guys. So that's why I thank you guys so much for allowing me to do this, guys. I genuinely cannot comprehend why you choose to watch my videos. I don't understand, but you guys find my videos, the YouTube algorithm just be like, boop, sweat any video. You guys are just like, you click it, and I'm just like, bro, why you clicking it for? There's literally probably Mr. Beast right next to it, or I don't even know who else might be next to my video. Somebody probably 10 times better, but you guys choose them, and I thank you sincerely, like, for real, yo. Like, I don't deserve it. I really don't. And I'm gonna continue to say that. I know I say that pretty much every single time I do any of these little tangents. I don't deserve it, but I really don't deserve it. I really don't deserve a fraction of the attention this channel has received. As you can see, I'm not the best at expressing my emotions. You guys choose to take a minute out of your day just to watch a Swin in a video, which there's plenty of others that you can watch, and it supports me, it supports the dream, which is why I'm thankful. Enough of the sappy stuff. Time to end this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces. When I'm on YouTube, I be like Swin, eating my chicken noodle soup just like Swin. When I hit the nanny, I be like Swin. I'm still gonna put the outro. When I'm on YouTube, I be like Swin, eating my chicken noodle soup just like Swin. When I hit the nanny.